Good afternoon, everyone. Bob Pompiani here, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews. It's a Tomlin Tuesday, and the biggest one of the year as the Steelers get ready for a winner-take-all final game of the regular season against Baltimore. Thank you for joining us here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital Platform. Steelers lost in Cleveland, missed a golden opportunity. Couple that with a Baltimore win in Green Bay, and that's where we have arrived at this Week 18 matchup. Mike Tomlin is ready to address the media. Let's take you there right now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to AFC North Championship Week, as I like to refer to it. Before I get started, I'll start with a quick review of our last performance. As I said after the game, certainly a disappointing outcome, but certainly not the first disappointing outcome this collective has had this year. You have your bumps along the way, and there's certainly growth associated with it. And to me, that's what work yesterday was about for us. An opportunity to take the emotions out, to really assess what transpired in the game and why we were unsuccessful in terms of engineering victory. We did that. We did that as a larger collective. We did that as smaller groups within the collective in an effort to be more detailed and gain an understanding. All that's done in an effort to build a more perfect plan this week, to divide the labor up more intentionally in an effort to position ourselves better to make necessary plays. And when you really look at the game, that's what it boiled down to. We didn't make enough significant plays, and certainly the Cleveland Browns had a lot to do with it as well. As I mentioned several times last week, their defensive unit is the number one unit in our division, offense or defense, and they certainly played to that. We didn't have enough success on third down to extend drives and to produce enough points to secure victory, and that's the reality of it. Some of it obviously had a lot to do with their talents and their schematics, but we own also the responsibility of performing, and we didn't make enough plays. We didn't put our guys in enough positions to make plays, and that's certainly obvious based on the outcome of the game. When a game is going like that, usually you look for a splash play or two, maybe from defense or special teams, to kickstart you and give you a leg up. And although our defense and special teams were solid, we missed out on those game-changing or momentum-changing plays. I thought we had one 2 minutes or so before the halftime. Herbig had his hands on the ball in our left flat, and he certainly had an opportunity to run it back had he caught it. And I think those are the type of plays that really kind of break games like that open. And when you get them, you have an opportunity to move on and find your rhythm and do what's required to win. And when they don't, it's obviously more tough sledding. And it certainly was that for us. In the special teams game, I thought our punt team was really solid, particularly in the second half. I think we had 5 punts inside the 20-yard line, and we kept them on the long field. And keeping them on the long field enabled us to get on and get off defensively repeatedly, particularly in the fourth quarter, and give ourselves a chance to drive and win. And we certainly had that. I think we had three and outs there in the fourth quarter defensively, and the punt unit teed some of that up from a field positioning perspective. I like the way we moved the ball in hurry situations on offense in 2 minutes. We were able to negotiate the ball down the field in a 2-minute drive and kick a field goal before halftime, and certainly we gave ourselves a chance to win, going 60 so yards in the waning moments of the game, to have, second and goal from the 7 and have 3 shots to do it. And so I appreciate that component of it. But certainly we need to look at this with sober eyes, man, as we formulate our plan for this week. And not only in terms of what happened to us in that game, but also the depths of this relationship that we have with Baltimore. We played them a short period of time ago, but beyond that, there's just real intimacy in these divisional matchups. And so, man, we're working with an edge. This is chess, not checkers, as you strategize and at the early portions of the week, not only forecasting who's available to us potentially, but also who's available or unavailable for them, and what that might do to strategy. And so, it's a big part of the week for us. Before I get into Baltimore specifically, I'll talk about some injury updates and give you some updates of where we are from a personnel standpoint. Darnell Washington is out. He had surgery on his broken arm this morning, and so he won't be available to us. thankfully, all other guys I'm about to mention have some level of optimism in terms of their availability. Calvin Austin, who missed the last game with a hamstring, definitively has a chance. Brandon Eccles, same thing with his groin. James Pierre, same thing with his calf. Isaac Siamalu, same thing with his tricep injury. Malik Harrison's got a bone bruise that was sustained in game. It may limit him at the early portions of the week, but optimistic certainly about his inclusion. And although I hadn't seen TJ today, optimistic about his potential inclusion in this game. We'll work him up throughout the course of the week and let the amount of participation and the quality of participation be our guide in terms of whether or not he's a participant, but certainly I am more optimistic this week than I have been in previous weeks as I stand here today. Now on to Baltimore. It's obvious that, the rubber's meeting the road, not only for us, but for others. And we have intimate knowledge of opponents. The way that we do Baltimore, you really see, some of their go-tos when things get thick. Just looking at the Green Bay game, for example, it's obvious, man, when things get thick, man, they play behind their big runner and the people that go with him on offense. 42, the big lead back, and 88, the base tight end. Those three often work in tandem as they work to win the line of scrimmage and run a variety of run schemes at you, leads, gap scheme stuff, zone scheme stuff. They do an awesome job of mixing it up, but the reality is that it's a two-back attack when things get really thick. It certainly was a two-back attack in Green Bay last weekend, and they played behind that. Certainly they have awesome corresponding misdirection and play-action passes off of some of that work. That really allows them to get yards and chunks in the passing game with guys like Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews and others. So none of that's new, but certainly their renewed commitment to that style of play is not surprising, but daunting nonetheless as we analyze that video and lean in on prep. From a defensive perspective, it looks like they're minimizing some of their man-to-man since the last time we played them. We had some big plays in one-on-one circumstances. It looks like they've pivoted a little bit and worked to minimize some of that schematically. They're more zone defenses than they were the last time. Less isolation, one-on-one moments to produce one-on-one big plays and flip the field or produce scoring drives. And so it looks like they're doing some quintessential Baltimore things when things get thick on both sides of the ball in an effort to better engineer victory. Certainly, their special teams group is always a formidable one. And when we get in these matchups, man, oftentimes significant plays occur in that phase. And so certainly there's a three-phase approach to preparation and planning. Really optimistic about the inclusion of some of our guys, as I mentioned earlier, and certainly it's the time for that in the AFC North Championship game. And I'm sure Baltimore's up the same mindset. We played these guys most recently. I'm sure we'll have a wrinkle or two. I'm sure they'll have a wrinkle or two. But I'm sure at the end of the day, wrinkles won't determine the outcome of this game. Quality playmaking, particularly in timely moments, will. And so it's important that we formulate a good plan, that we divide the labor up appropriately, and we put our guys in position to do so, make those plays, and prevent those plays on the other side. And I'm sure Baltimore has a similar sentiment as they push forward throughout their week. It is an honor, man, to be in these games, to be in these hotly contested matchups. It seems like Baltimore is always a dance partner. I certainly am respectful and appreciative of that relationship and some of the historic things we've been able to do when these two teams have come together. This appears to be one of those weekends. It's humbling and an honor to be a component of it, but to be a component of it is just that. Our job is to win, and so with that, man, I'll pause and open up for questions.
Mike, I'm assuming since TJ practiced last week that he's been cleared at least to do that. What is the holdup now? Is it up to him, or how he feels comfortable?
Again, he's coming off of a medical circumstance different than the injury circumstance, and so certainly he has a certain level of health. But we want to be, cautious about how we work him back into the fold, and certainly He's done appropriate things in that area as well. And as I mentioned last week, I'm sure you guys will be hearing from him sooner rather than later, directly.
Mike, sorry. Given the circumstances of this game, would you consider using him situationally, or does he need to be back to be a full-time starter?
I'm open to utilizing him in any way that's appropriate relative to his availability.
Mike, does he need to practice fully multiple days this week to be able to go on Sunday?
Practice participation certainly would be more comforting in terms of making the decision, given he's coming back from a medical circumstance.
How would you describe his level of football shape?
I doubt that TJ is ever out of football shape or conditioning over the course of a 12-month calendar. I just know how he lives his life and how he prepares and how thoughtful he is in terms of what he puts in his body and how he trains. And so I don't imagine, that component of it being a major concern.
Mike, is Darnell's injury, it's safe to say that's season-ending regardless of what happens?
He's not available to us this week, and that's really all the information that I was concerned about as we formulate a plan. Man, this is a one-week season for us.
He's a unique athlete. How do you sort of compensate for not having him available?
We use a lot of tight ends. We also use guys at the tight end position that don't play tight end, Spencer Anderson. And so we have a lot of options at our disposal relative to that from a strategy perspective, and certainly given 6 or 7 days to prepare, I don't think it'll be a strategic issue in terms of replacing his efforts.
Mike, you said it's humbling to be in games like this, but is it also frustrating to be in this position after having a chance to clinch the division a week ago?
Man, it's a lot of things that you could get frustrated about in our business. I've learned to kind of always move forward. My windshield is much bigger than my rear view. I'm certainly interested in learning from our experiences, but I'm equally as interested in learning from our experiences that happened much earlier in the process. It's all food for growth from my perspective. Frustration doesn't get the job done. I'm singularly focused on putting together a good plan and preparing this group for this awesome opportunity that we have.
Mike, the last time you guys played the Ravens, DK had a really big game, and seeing the way that the Browns played you guys in terms of manning up and not having the success you guys needed throughout in the air, what do you guys have to do in order to try to beat the Ravens without DK? And
if they
ball more, or what do you guys have to
if they give us one-on-one playmaking opportunities, we got to make those plays, and we got to put guys in position to do so. We got very capable men. Oftentimes, I say there's a fine line between being a Pro Bowler and a backup. We're at the top of the food chain in terms of the football world. And so it's a reasonable expectation from my perspective, particularly with an additional week to prepare, that we put together a thoughtful plan and that we position our guys to take advantage of opportunities. And if and when they do present themselves, that we make the plays.
Mike, how did TJ look to you in his first week back at practice last week?
Man, I thought he looked great, man. I know he was glad to be out there with his teammates. I think that's a component of it that we don't talk often enough about when someone is injured or out, the isolation component of it. We're a communal group, man. This is a team sport definitively. And so more than anything, I thought he displayed an excitement that comes with being back out there with his teammates.
Mike, last week, when we talked to you, mentioned what Roman Wilson when he was asked about how to replace DK, and I think later in the week you made similar comments about Roman. Yet he only played 9 snaps. What happened? Will that change this week?
Particularly when you're not winning third downs, I don't think anyone plays as much as they would like. We've had this conversation many times about running the football. I felt really good about our run plan. I thought we had an opportunity to really control the game through those means, but and we didn't have a bad running day, but we certainly didn't have as good a running day as we could have had we converted more possession downs. And I think the same could be said about levels of participation for guys like Roman and thus their ability to impact the game in a positive way.
Mike, you guys had 16 targets between Valdez-Scantling and Miller, only 5 for Fryman, 4 for Gainwell. Is there a game planning element that you guys can do to get more targets to the guys who've traditionally been your playmakers, or is that something you just trust Aaron Rodgers to handle?
We certainly draw up enough schematics to spread the ball around. We believe all our eligibles are playmakers. There's a lot of variables that go into how the ball is distributed, and certainly schematic approach and matchups of the opposing teams are a component of that. And so what might have been a story last week or a challenge last week may or may not be a story or a challenge this week.
You talked about you having a bigger windshield in the rearview mirror. Obviously, your lens is different than your players. What do you do for them to try to instill that mindset in them this week?
I display that in my actions, and certainly I embrace that as a leader. There's things that we say, and then there's how we move, and I like to have both aligned, and certainly I'm prepared to display singular focus and preparedness and urgency this week as we lean in on this opportunity.
Can you give an example of maybe how that would be different than a different week?
No.
What kind of response did you see from them yesterday in just the preliminary week meeting?
I don't know that I was looking for a response. Response is kind of action-based. And we were talking about what transpired and why, and working on the beginnings of formulating an appropriate plan for this week. And so what we do tomorrow and leading up to the game in terms of our physical labor and the spirit in which we do it will be much more of a determinant of our quality of play and thus our chances of winning than maybe our reaction to a meeting on a Monday.
I'm not asking you to compare Lamar to Huntley as players, but schematically, when you have studied them at times when Huntley has been the quarterback, how similar do they try to use him, deploy him, just within the framework of their offense to when Lamar is the QB?
I think there's certainly some things that are exclusive to Lamar, and that's not taking anything away from Huntley. It's just certain things that are Lamar and no other human on the planet. But largely, I think they play to a certain personality regardless of who's at quarterback, and I think that was on display a week ago. I think they're experienced in playing with Huntley. They know how to play with him schematically, and certainly he knows how to play and has logged some significant reps over his years there. One year, I think he was even a Pro Bowler when Lamar missed a significant amount of time. And so although it is potentially a backup quarterback circumstance, I think it's some real fluidity there from their perspective. And to be quite honest with you, when things get thick, they play a certain way regardless of who's playing quarterback. And usually the ball is going to go through the big runner, and that's what we expect.
Mike, with this being essentially a playoff game, winner take all, do you approach it differently from a coaching point of view, to the scheme in terms of maybe taking more chances?
I think that's reflective of December football. And so it's not only playoff winner go home football, but I just think it's as the road gets narrow, as we say in this business, you see people taking calculated risk in pursuit of victory, and certainly we're not opposed to that.
Mike, that Baltimore running game, is it so hard to stop just because of those two guys, or is it more than that?
It's also quarterback mobility. Oftentimes they force you into an 11-on-11 football because whether or not Lamar keeps the ball or not, there's a threat of him keeping the ball, and that thins out oftentimes your second and your third level of defense when it comes to point of attack running. And so, some things that they do uniquely that others don't. The quarterback mobility is a component of it that makes it unique with Lamar's unique talents, and certainly the unique talents of the big runner makes it a challenge as well.
Mike, what's changed with the rush defense, your rush defense, since that last Baltimore?
I don't know that a lot has changed in terms of, what we're doing. We've got some player availability that's been improved. Derek Harmon's back, and I think, that's significant, or at least, the significance of his presence has been well documented. We'll see. But I don't know that we're doing anything dramatically different. We're stacking the box when appropriate and making judgments about when that is and when that isn't in an effort to neutralize some of the complementary components. Stability is big, I think, in people. And so, the additions of some of these guys that have missed some time might be helpful to our efforts as well. Certainly I'm open to wrinkles, but at this stage of the journey for us, it's about competing at a high level and being connected. And oftentimes that's with things that you know and know very well, whether you're talking about an individual or about a collective.
There's a good chance that there's a chance this might be Aaron Rodgers' last game, depending on how it goes. What has it been like to work with him, and what kind of impact do you think he's made on the organization during the time he's been here?
I don't know that I've taken time to ponder that. I'm just committed to making sure that it's not. He's certainly been an awesome contributor to our efforts, and not only from a talent perspective and an experience perspective, but just his professionalism, his relationship with the game, his love for his teammates, and his willingness to help them grow and get better and gain better understanding each and every day has been been cool to be a part of.
Is games like Sunday night one of the reasons you wanted them so badly in the offseason?
As I probably stated several times in the last few weeks, absolutely.
Mike, how much does the outcome of this weekend's game affect how you view the totality of the season as a success or not?
The winner goes on.
And in that case, week 18, high-stakes game like this, is there such thing as home field advantage?
Certainly there is. Their ability to change plays at the line of scrimmage, to communicate, to get in appropriate schemes and so forth offensively gets challenged. It's the same urgency that we had when we went into Baltimore several weeks ago. It creates tangible challenges for your offense, and that's why it's so important that you start fast when you're in those adverse circumstances. That's why our ability to go down the field and score on the first possession, for example, in Baltimore a couple of weeks back, I thought was so significant in terms of trying to neutralize some of that. Our job this week is different, but I'm certainly glad that this game is being played in Acrisure.
Is there a message to the fans who've been critical this season to stay highly engaged and energized being the home crowd?
No message at all. That's our job, to make sure that we have the appropriate engagement. And so I'm committed to that component of it.
Mike, your run defense has shut down guys like Jonathan Taylor, Chain, Jahmyr Gibbs, but you've allowed guys like James Cook and other guys to be explosive. What have you guys done when you've channeled a collective positive effort that's contained the run game?
Maybe it's just Derek Harmon.
Well, one thing on that, Mike, actually, one thing that has come up is a lot of those times where the backs have gotten loose are games where you've also had to deal with a good mobile running quarterback. In those contests, what have you found execution-wise that you could have done better to stop two guys at the same time?
I'm not going to try to paint with a broad brush and assess multiple games, many of which I don't know exactly what you guys are talking about. But, we've had some good games. We've had some games that have not been good in terms of minimizing the run. We certainly understand the gravity of it as it pertains to this matchup, and we're committed to putting together a good plan to work to minimize it, because it is a major component of us engineering victory, no doubt.
Mike, when it comes to 4th and short, are you always aware if it's less than one, more than one, and is that what happened on the 4th and 1?
I work to be aware, but replay assist sometimes makes some judgments and alters it in some way, and that's why sometimes you'll see me leaving the team box in the effort to get a better view on something after the ball or as the ball is being spotted. But that's just the challenges of the business in today's game, and I'm sure all my peers do similar things.
After the game in Cleveland, talking with Patrick Queen in the locker room, asked about this high-stakes matchup. He said, if you really love the sport, if you really love the game, you have to be a competitor. How do you see that displayed from your guys, particularly the leaders on this group, as the road gets narrow?
I think we'll write that story, particularly as it pertains to this week when our physical work gets started tomorrow. But if you're asking me, do I have the right guys? Certainly. I think that's what we painstakingly go through when we evaluate talent, be it the draft or free agency. Are they good men? Are they good men who have good relationships with the game of football? Do they love it? When you love it, everything else is generally more fluid.
How much having Aaron can be a calming presence to, you have a young offensive line, guys that maybe aren't, he's had so much experience in these late season games where some other guys haven't. What's that?
I think we've benefited from that at every step of the journey. His experience and what he's able to do for a collective relative to thick moments.
Mike, the Ravens had a 200-yard rush game last time against you. Did you have a different feel about your defense, at least then, as opposed to the way you felt after last year's playoff game?
I certainly feel better positioned in 2025 to deal with it than I did in 2024.
We've often talked about how good Pat Freiermuth is against zone. Have you found that to be the case with Jonnu as well? Or is that just kind of the nature of the tight end position? Is he the same way?
He's certainly capable. Whether or not we choose to is another story. We build plans week in and week out in an effort to highlight them, and particularly them relative to what we anticipate from others. And so, some weeks are zone weeks, some weeks are man weeks. Different people are highlighted based on the matchups in those discussions. And so he's certainly capable.
When you guys last faced Baltimore, you guys won despite being outrushed by like 200 yards or something like that. Is flipping that around, or at least mitigating that this time, a big key for making up for the absence of a DK Metcalf? It was huge for you guys in that game.
I think there's a lot of variables that could really affect the outcome of the game in a significant way. Rushing and stopping the rush is certainly. Taking the ball away and preserving ball security is another. Splash plays in the team's game. There's a myriad of variables that could impact how you engineer victory, and that's why we continually always put a bunch of lines in the water and worked all components of the equation in an effort to increase our chances there.
Anyone else?
Mike, after the game, Aaron Rodgers said he has full confidence that you guys will come home and win this game this week. How do you see that displayed from him, and what gives you confidence in him?
Again, it's the early portions of the week. We haven't done anything relative to prep. I'm sure it will be displayed in how he behaves tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week. As I mentioned before, I'm not surprised. That's one of the things that made him really attractive to us, that can-do attitude and the experience and resume that goes with it. I don't think it's work for him. I think it's as natural as breathing. And so if he's breathing, I expect to see that from him as we lean in on this game.
Mike, you did have two good 2-minute drives you talked about. Is there anything that you can take from those to bring to other parts of the game, or are those situations so unique that it's hard to make a carryover?
There's certainly a carryover from a self-eval perspective, but there's also the defensive schematic component of those situations and scenarios, and oftentimes it depends on how the defensive signal caller calls it in terms of being able to carry it forward or no.
Anyone? All right.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin after his press conference today, joined by Missy Matthews. And before any big game, you're talking about who's available, who's not available, and the Steelers have had some guys not available to them, and now Darnell Washington joins that list.
Yeah, I think you saw really his loss to the Steelers offense in that Browns game. It happened right before halftime. They knew he was out. He came out with his arm in a sling for the second half, but he had surgery today on the broken arm, according to Coach Tomlin, out for this week. Wouldn't speculate beyond, just focused on what he is calling the AFC North Championship. And then some good news in terms of other guys. TJ Watt, his participation will be the guide, but coach said he's more optimistic about his availability. And then some other guys that missed the game on Sunday in Cleveland. Isaac Seumalo with a tricep injury, Calvin Austin hamstring, Brandon Echols groin, and James Pierre calf. The only in-game injury he talked about was Malik Harrison with a bone bruise. So all in all, for Week 18, not too bad.
Yeah, much better than last week. And the thing is, when you miss all those guys in the secondary, it does have an impact on how they play. But still, that was a game they probably look back on and say, man, that was an opportunity missed. But as far as Washington, it was interesting to me. He got injured on that play. He stayed in the game. And the next play was the Connor Heyward tush push that went for 29 yards. And he offered up a good block, even though his hand and arm was dangling there.
Yeah, he was definitely in a lot of pain. I think he really did try after they kind of taped it and looked at it to go back in, and then realized that it was just a little too much. So, unfortunately, but fortunately, they got him out of there and realized what was going on. But I did think, not having that as a tool, something they've relied on so much this year, they call it Spartan, to not have that. I think now, because it's a week of practice, you can see, do you want Jonnu Smith or Pat Freiermuth, or who is going to be the person to kind of help Connor Heyward get where he needs to go? Because that is something that they need to keep in their arsenal, especially with a big game coming up on Sunday night.
Absolutely. Those fourth down situations are huge. Third down, they're all big, and the weighty downs, as Mike Tomlin likes to call it. When we come back, we'll talk about this game, and it's interesting because it's the first time ever the Ravens and Steelers have played a game in the final game of the season, which has meant a division championship on the line. It was once Bengals back in 11 years ago or so, but we haven't seen it like this, and it's going to be the final game of the regular season, 8:20 Sunday night. We'll talk more about the Ravens and the Steelers in this matchup when we come back right here on KDK Plus and all your Steeler digital platforms.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
They got a good defense, but yeah, we didn't execute very well on third down, so I didn't have a very good game. And I didn't run the ball early like we wanted to. And pretty bad on third down.
How significant was Darnell's absence once he left the game?
Yeah, Darnell's a big part of what we do.
How impacted was just what you wanted to do by the absences you've had in terms of DK Metcalf and Calvin and Darnell?
Yeah, those are three impact players for us, but got a lot of confidence in the guys that fill those roles.
Aaron, you're said in the last couple, was there a wrong route in those second and third down plays on the last series, and then I assume on the last play, interferences?
That was definitely interference. I'll have to look at the film on second and third down.
And what did you see on that throw to Sky on 4-1?
One-on-one.
What needs to change between now and whenever you play next week, if anything?
Not much, just got to execute better.
Anyone else?
Aaron, when you let go of an opportunity like that to clinch, how difficult is it to bounce back and you have one more shot?
I mean, it's not difficult. That's our job, playing all 17.
When you play the Browns, I mean, how much is it finding that balance of trying to limit Garrett, but at the same time still getting it going?
We had the similar game plan as the first time. We just executed better in the first game.
How much was it in the back of your mind and in the back of the O-line's minds that Garrett was one step away from that record?
You got to ask them. Wasn't on my mind.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about to them.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud. Wow!
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
It is picked off. Wow! What a catch! Guess who? Touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
Again, he's coming off of a medical circumstance different than the injury circumstance, and so certainly he has a certain level of health, but we want to be, cautious about how we work him back into the fold, and certainly he's done appropriate things in that area as well. And as I mentioned last week, I'm sure you guys will be hearing from him sooner rather than later, directly.
Mike, sorry. Given the circumstances of this game, would you consider using him situationally, or does he need to be back to be a full-time starter?
I'm open to utilizing him in any way that's appropriate relative to his availability.
Yeah, TJ Watt, anytime you have him around, you're a better football team because of it, and so it comes down to this. He did practice last week, Missy. You saw him out there, so that's a step in the right direction. So, I mean, this week, it's winner take all. I suspect if that's the case, and if he's up to it, he hasn't played in a while either, and he's going through a tough medical situation. Hopefully he'll be out there.
Yeah, I do think, maybe he needs some full practices strung together to make everybody feel better about it, maybe even including him. As you said, he has not spoke yet, so we haven't had a chance to hear from him, which hopefully if that happens this week, that makes me think, okay, he's gunning to play on Sunday in a huge game, obviously. And I do think, another positive sign is that TJ Watt traveled with the team to Cleveland. Right. Yes, it's a bus ride, not an airplane, but he was on the sidelines the whole time. He was like a kid in a candy store when Nick Herbig, Jack Sawyer had their big defensive plays. He was right there with them the whole time, had a headset on, was engaged. So to me, traveling with the team, being there on the sidelines, another check of the box per se, and hopefully much more in practice this week.
Well, one thing you can say is those linebackers have stepped up. I think Alex Highsmith is playing probably his best football. He ended the last game with the Ravens with a sack, you might recall, and he's been all over the place. And he was principally responsible for that Sawyer interception, but he's played well. I think Herbig probably is kicking himself still because of that interception. Would have been maybe a pick six had he made it.
Yeah, I think Herbig put it best yesterday. I'm not direct quoting, but it was something along the lines of, that's a play that keeps you up at night. Sometimes for a quarterback, it could be an interception or something like that, or a missed throw. For him, as Coach said, just one of those unfortunate missed opportunities in Cleveland where could have, would have, should have. Unfortunately, it did it. Not that it wasn't a good play, but the fact that it could have most likely very easily walked into the end zone is one that I understand why he said he's not able to, sleep at night thinking about it and what that could have meant to the game, because it did feel like, especially towards the end of that game, that the defense was going to have to make a play, score points in order for this game to go the Steelers' way. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and the offense wasn't able to get it at the last bit of the game to just try to tie it up and send it to overtime.
That Sawyer interception was interesting because assists from Alex Highsmith, who applied the pressure, but then Logan Lee got his head in the way.
Yeah, his helmet. Hey,
interesting however you get it, you
right.
get it, and so that didn't result in points. And I think that was the big key to this game. Every time the Steelers had an opportunity to turn a turnover into points, they failed to do it. And normally when they do that, they win football games. But in this case, they came away with nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't matter if you win the turnover margin if you're not able to do something with it. And I think, even with Corliss Waitman and the way he was punting and the position that he was sticking the Browns in, everybody, it felt like, was doing their part. Of course, there's every side of the ball, even special teams, you can point out things that if one more thing went the right way, we could be talking about a totally different game. Unfortunately for the Steelers, they had a chance to just kind of end it, use this potentially not as a bye week, but a chance to maybe rest some people who have been dealing with nagging injuries heading into the postseason. But now you have to lay it all on the line. Luckily, this game is at home. I don't think anybody is surprised that it is the Sunday night football game. I think as soon as we got on the buses, we all just knew. And then the league kept everybody up through that Sunday night game to announce the schedule. So we'll have to see what happens on Sunday night, but I'm sure this is not one that is hard for guys to, really engage, get ready to go and prepare for, knowing that you either are heading to the postseason, which is where you felt like you have been heading, especially this last half of the season, or
you go home. And that's
the other,
the end of it.
yeah.
It's all right there for you. And the Steelers and Ravens have been in some big games. We can go back and talk about so many of them, but this one, for the first time ever, will decide a division champ. When we come back, we'll focus in on the Ravens and what the Steelers need to do to stop their prolific run game, which really was cranking in Green Bay the other night, the main reason they won. And perhaps we'll talk about Lamar Jackson. He's been injured. Will he play? Or is it going to be Tyler Huntley again? We'll get into all that and more as we continue right here on Steeler Platforms and KDKA+.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud. Wow!
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
And it's picked off! Wow! What a catch! Get two! Touchdown! Pittsburgh Steelers!
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
The competitor in me is we lost this game. We lost a chance to clinch it today. But the competitor in me is like, bring it on. Baltimore is coming in. Winner takes all. I have a lot of respect for those guys over there. But let's win it at home.
Do you feel like it puts unnecessary added pressure on the entire team this week to get it done?
What do you mean?
I mean, do you feel like there's going to be a lot more pressure this week rather than sitting out?
It's pressure on everybody. We play in a professional league. There's pressure every week. If you're not ready for that pressure and you feel like it's unwanted, I think you're in the wrong league. I think when you play in this, there's always going to be pressure.
Jim, is it hard to regroup after a disappointment like that?
No.
It seemed like you guys settled in more defensively in the second half. What
Yeah.
led to you guys finding more of a rhythm?
I thought we quit giving up the bonehead plays early. Giving up the touchdown, that's the difference in the game. We had a chance to play on the ball. We didn't. And then we controlled the line of scrimmage from there on out. But that's a lot of tough sledding against that team over there. They have a good defense as well. It was a battle for field position in the second half.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
Just looking at the Green Bay game, for example, it's obvious, man, when things get thick, man, they play behind their big runner and the people that go with him on offense. 42, the big lead back, and 88, the base tight end. Those three often work in tandem as they work to win the line of scrimmage and run a variety of run schemes at you, leads, gap scheme stuff, zone scheme stuff. They do an awesome job of mixing it up, but the reality is that it's a two-back attack when things get really thick. It certainly was a two-back attack in Green Bay last weekend.
Well, that's Mike Tomlin talking about Derrick Henry, and the man that is, it's amazing to me. He's played all these years. He's 31 years old. Most running backs at this point in their career are not doing what he's doing, and he very seldom gets injured. Now, he's not played as much in recent weeks, and maybe that had everything to do with Harbaugh deciding, well, he's our best option, 36 carries, 218 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So the Steelers have had success against him, but there's been games where obviously they have not. So what's the key, do you think, stopping this guy?
You know, the Steelers have had success before. Obviously, they have not had success before, but it almost feels like when it's at home in Pittsburgh, they do a better job of it opposed to when they are in Baltimore. Now, he wasn't, defining the game week, whatever that was a few weeks ago when the Steelers won down there, and they were able to do what they typically do when they're facing Lamar. Now, watching this game against Green Bay, you just felt like there was nothing that defense could do to stop what he was doing and how hard he was running and just what their plan was. And if you're the Ravens, why would you not stick with it? You're getting the clock to go faster, you're scoring points, and it got to the point where you're like, man, he must be tired with all the running and touchdowns that he had scored, similar to last night watching, the Monday Night Football game of Bijan Robinson. But as you said, Derrick Henry, significantly older than Robinson and still doing it at a very high level. And I do think not knowing who the quarterback is going to be just yet, I still think their plan that they did going back to even last year when the Ravens were in Pittsburgh for the regular season game, when you stop Derrick Henry, a lot of things go your way. So hopefully we'll see what their plan is this week. As these are rivals. This will be the 40th time, including playoffs, Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh will be going against each other. Chess, not checkers, as Coach Tomlin said earlier in his press conference. So it'll be interesting to see what new wrinkles the Steelers defense comes up to try to contain him and not have a repeat of the end of last season, both in the regular season and the postseason.
Yeah, that wild card game ended not the way you want. I mean, they just continued to dominate the ball, and they never gave it up. And that's what you have. A run game like that is capable of dominating. The holes were big, but it looks like, Patrick Ricard, we don't talk a lot about fullbacks that much these days, but he's in there, and he is clearly a difference maker. They follow him everywhere he goes. Even if the run games, it's not the same. They're not going in the same direction. They're going left, they're going right, but he's the guy who leads the way.
And he's a big guy,
big guy.
So it really does work in terms of what they're trying to do. And I do think that why would you not continue to utilize your run, no matter who the quarterback is? If Lamar's healthy enough and they start him, or Tyler Huntley, he's 2-0 as the starting quarterback for the Ravens this season. So he has had luck and success. Week 8, I believe, when they played Chicago, and then obviously last week against the Packers.
They also have another guy that he gets in there, and when he does, the Steelers found this out in their last meeting, Keaton Mitchell. He is the complement to Derrick Henry. And when he gets going, he gets in there, and you may not pay attention so much to him, but when you don't, he's capable of really turning in a big play also.
Yeah, very different running back in terms of size, style, and he is quick. So that is something that they have to watch out for as well. And I think even just what they like to do with Zay Flowers, involving him more as well. So these two teams, they just know each other so well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, the game plans that everybody puts together, and knowing that it's the final game of the regular season and it is winner take all.
Yeah, and you do focus on Henry. Obviously, you got to do that, but when that happens, sometimes a guy like Mark Andrews, who really has been the #1 target of Lamar Jackson throughout all of these years, he's a guy who can, get out in the open and take advantage of an opportunity one-on-one with either a linebacker or a safety.
Yeah, he's a safety blanket per se, as I feel like, all good tight ends are typically to their quarterback. But I do feel like, he got that big contract extension during the season. Didn't see too much of him in the first meeting when the Steelers were in Baltimore, but clearly somebody that they know what he's capable of, and for reasons like that.
Yeah, and likely was the guy who thought he had a touchdown in the last play of the game the last time. He's another guy you have to watch, and that was a controversial play. The Steelers would take it as they won that game 27-22, and as I said, it ended with a sack of Lamar Jackson by Alex Highsmith, who was outstanding in that game and needs to be again this week. They got to make sure that they contain themselves against this attack, as it could be. And you're right about Huntley. If you look at his stats over 2 games, both wins, very high completion percentage. He's not prone to make mistakes, although if you get in his face, he can turn the ball over. But man, as a backup, he knows that system very well. Beginning of the season, they weren't going with him. He's now the man in place of Lamar.
Yeah, it was funny. A lot of the beat writers that cover the Cleveland Browns I was following on Twitter throughout last week, and they were all saying, on Saturday night, isn't it funny? The Browns had Tyler Huntley at the beginning of the season, never played him. Now look what he's doing, and they've gone through X amount of quarterbacks, but such is life, and he's with the Ravens, and he's doing well and a very capable backup, as you said.
And we'll find out later this week about the status of Lamar Jackson. John Harbaugh yesterday said that he's more optimistic this week. We'll see how that takes them. If not, it's going to be Tyler Huntley against the Steelers on Sunday night. Back with more of our coverage of the Mike Tomlin press conference as we get set for a winner-take-all big game Sunday night, 8:20 at Acrisure Stadium.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
I don't think anything needs to change. I just think when we line up across from another team, it can't be no steps back. It can't be get them next play. Like every play counts. So I think today showed that like every single play, especially in a season like this, December football, every single play gonna count. So we gotta do a better job at that next week.
At the same time, how do you welcome the challenge of, hey, it's a winner-take-all game at home on your home turf against one of your biggest rivals?
I think you got to be a competitor. I think if you really love the sport and you really love the game, you got to be a competitor. It could have been an easy way out today and get the win, and next week probably chilling or something. But now you got to come play football now. Season on the line. I'm a competitor, so I love it.
Yeah, obviously last night's result changed that. Did you have any communication with any of the Ravens guys? Was anybody texting you before today or anything like that?
No.
Patrick, is it going to be easy to turn a page after a game like this?
I don't think we need to turn the page. I think we just need to come to work and do what we got to do and secure wins like this. There was too many opportunities for us to, get off the field or whatever it may be. So we just got to be better.
What's
That's
it
all.
going to take?
Just be focused, locked in, one play at a time. Understand your job, understand the assignment, and do it.
Do you feel like there's a lot more pressure on you guys this week now? Do you feel like there's a lot more pressure on you guys this week now?
I don't think it's pressure. I think it's just, do you want to keep playing or not? Do you want to try to get to the Super Bowl or not? For me, I look at it, there's a lot of people on staff or younger guys who could use extra checks. That would benefit them a lot. And I just love football. So at the end of the day, I'm ready to play.
Our fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
And it's picked off. Wow, what a catch! Get 2, touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
I think there's certainly some things that are exclusive to Lamar, and that's not taking anything away from Hundley. It's just certain things that are Lamar and no other human on the planet. But largely, I think they play to a certain personality regardless of who's at quarterback, and I think that was on display a week ago. I think they're experienced in playing with Hundley. They know how to play with him schematically, and certainly he knows how to play in his log, some significant reps over his years there.
All right, that's Mike Tomlin talking about the quarterback situation in Baltimore, which for now is uncertain. Lamar Jackson trying to find his way back. He's had an assortment of injuries this year. The latest one is the back, and that's tough for a guy like him, the way he plays, although his design runs this year have been far less than what we've seen in previous years, probably because of that. But if he's not 100%, what do you think the likelihood is that he plays versus 100% Tyler Huntley, especially knowing that they're going to want to run the ball the way they did last week?
I just feel like Lamar is going to play. John Harbaugh said yesterday they were more optimistic about his progress last week. Obviously not enough to have him start against Green Bay. But it did sound like maybe tomorrow when they resume practice as well, kind of similar to how the Steelers' schedule is set up for this week, that they would know a lot more. It is a back contusion. That's a wonky, type of injury, especially for a football player, let alone a quarterback. I just feel like because how big this game is, what it means, that John Harbaugh is probably going to go with Lamar Jackson. And he said without question that if Lamar is healthy and ready to go, it's Lamar. They're not, saying, okay, well, Huntley did good against Green Bay. This doesn't seem like it's going to be that type of decision. It's more health-wise in terms of Lamar.
Right. It depends on what percentage of health. If he's close, then absolutely they're going to play him, and I'm sure he'll want to play, given everything that's been on the lawn. Although he probably wants to play because his history of big games hasn't been all that good either. He's a 2-time NFL MVP. Some say could have been a 3-time NFL MVP. And yet in the biggest games, he's not done it. They've not done it. So maybe that's going to drive him to get back. But the Steelers have had their number against him in Pittsburgh, especially. They've had some good games against Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, including the playoffs, the Steelers Lamar is 3-5 against the Steelers, including the postseason. So 5-3 for the Steelers. And it just seems like they are that one team, Kansas City included, who have typically had his number. And I do think, especially just the way things ended last year, I think for the Steelers, not that you needed extra momentum or motivation. It's always these two teams. And as you said earlier, it's crazy that there was never a winner-take-all week 18 because we always seem to finish with them. The closest thing would have been that Christmas Day game, the Immaculate Extension with Antonio Brown. That won the division. That was a do-or-die game, but I still think that was like week 16, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. That was there's so many classics in this series. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And this is going to be another one of them. As far as the Steelers are concerned, they're going to be without DK Metcalf. Hopefully Calvin Austin will be in there, but even so, they don't have their number one guy. I wonder what the plan will be. And, to me, a guy like Freiermuth or the tight ends should be targeted more. And I thought the same of Gainwell. Going into that game against Cleveland, Missy, he was their leading pass receiver in the previous 2 games, and even that one in Detroit.
Well, without DK Metcalf playing this week, he will finish as the team's leading receiver in terms of receptions, which is just kind of crazy when you think about it. And it didn't feel like he was part of the passing game plan, which we had seen recently, like you said, especially in Detroit. But I do think for Pat Freiermuth, he had 63 yards, 50 of them came on that final drive. Definitely somebody that they could utilize a little bit more, especially in the passing game.
Well, yeah, right before halftime, it was over the middle to Freiermuth, sets up a field goal, and then late in the game, 2 big receptions there. So absolutely, I would think that target ratio should go up. All right, we'll come back and talk about this matchup more, give you the latest in case you tuned in late about the injury situation. Some good news, but there's one big bad news we'll get into when we come back right here from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side of Pittsburgh.
Fans are here. Give them something to cheer about today.
The crowd at Acrisure is so loud.
There's nothing like game day in Pittsburgh.
Oh my, TJ!
This defense is swarming.
And it's kicked off. Wow, what a catch! Get 2, touchdown, Pittsburgh Steelers.
We'll see you at Acrisure Stadium. Here we go.
obviously when you lose, it's frustrating, especially, what we were playing for today. It's frustrating, but, we give them credit. They played a good game.
I guess the one thing you can look at is you guys aren't eliminated. You still have next week. How do you kind of turn the page?
We have to. We got no choice. It's on the next week, and it's a must-win game. And get back to work and make the corrections we need to make.
I know we're not there yet, but do you feel like there's a lot more pressure now on this week to go out and win next week?
I don't think we feel any pressure. It's we're going about our business, and our business is winning. And every time we don't win, it sucks. And every week going into the week, all of them are must win. So, I feel like we've been in the playoffs for like the last 5 weeks, and that's kind of the mentality we've had. So, it's nothing different, but we know what's at stake.
Just honored. I said I was honored to go against someone like him. And, you just said keep killing it. Simple as that. Post game talk, nothing crazy.
Does he talk a lot during the game too?
No, barely at all. Actually, surprisingly, barely at all.
Do you think you guys are more prepared for bouncing back after these last 3 wins with so much on the line on Sunday?
Yeah, we just got to get back in the lab, watch the tape for today, and start our game plan on Baltimore, and just keep pushing. It's all in front of us. It's in our hands.
Get all your Steelers gear direct from the team. Shop the Steelers Pro Shop in-store or online for all things black and gold. You can get jerseys, hats, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can't find anywhere else. And of course, get the ultimate Steelers game day accessory, the Terrible Towel. Steelers Nation shops here. Get your gear in-store or online at shop.steelers.com.
All right, a final update on some injuries in case if you missed it at the top of our show. TJ Watt will have to return to practice. Coach said that will be the guide in terms of if he will be available for Sunday night against the Ravens. Some other good news, though, in terms of Isaac Seumalo, Calvin Austin, Brandon Eccles, and James Pierre. Also, Malik Harrison had a bone bruise from the game in Cleveland. Optimistic they'll all be good to go. A lot of those guys missed the game in Cleveland, so good to get some healthy bodies back. The only bad news, unfortunately, Darnell Washington underwent surgery this morning for his broken arm he suffered against the Browns. He is out for this week, obviously.
It's going to be must-see TV coming up on Sunday night. Missy, thanks. All the best. Happy New Year to you. And hopefully we can start 2026 with a win for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the number 4 seed and a home game in the playoffs if they win this game. That's going to do it for us. For Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani. Have a great day.